Sunlight filters through the wide bay windows of my parents' formal dining room, glinting off the crystal glasses until they scatter tiny prisms across the table. The familiar gravity of family tradition settles around me as I smooth the burgundy linen napkin over my lap, breathing in the comforting aroma of my mother's pot roast. At the head of the polished mahogany table, my father stands poised with his carving knife, slicing the roast with methodical precision, each piece landing perfectly on the Wedgwood china reserved for our Sunday gatherings. "Just a small piece for me, Dad," I say, though he doesn't acknowledge the request. Instead, he places a generous serving on my plate. "You're too thin, Elena," he replies without glancing up. "You always have been." I'm about to remind him that at 38, I can choose my own portion sizes when the front door bursts open. The peaceful stillness fractures instantly. My sister Sabrina sweeps in, her husband Evan following close behind, trailed by their 3 children. Within seconds, the room fills with noise, backpacks thudding to the floor, chairs scraping, children bickering over seats, and Evan's heavy steps crossing the hardwood. "Sorry we're late," Sabrina calls out, her tone bright and unapologetic. Her eyes gleam with a strange excitement that instantly puts me on edge. Traffic was awful near the outlet mall. "You went shopping before Sunday dinner?" I ask, but my voice is lost beneath Mom's delighted greeting of her grandchildren. Across the table, Dad meets Sabrina's gaze and gives a slight nod, that same silent exchange I've recognized since childhood. It's the look they share right before I find out about some family plan I was never told about. "Well, we're all here now," Mom says cheerfully, patting the table. "Gregory, finish serving so we can eat while it's hot." We fall into the usual rhythm, dishes passed around, polite chatter filling the gaps between bites. Mom asks about my latest architectural project. Dad turns the conversation toward Evan, quizzing him about the stock market. The kids complain about the vegetables on their plates. Then, without warning, Sabrina speaks up, her voice cutting clean through the noise. "We're moving into your Lakehouse next week. Our place has foundation problems." My fork stops halfway to my mouth. "What?" "It's sitting empty anyway, Elena," Dad replies casually, though his eyes are watchful. "I get the blue bedroom," Sabrina's oldest son exclaims, bouncing in his chair. "No fair." "Mom said that one's mine," his sister protests. Their argument fades into background noise as realization hits me. The kids have already picked their rooms. This wasn't spur of the moment. This was planned, discussed, and agreed upon long before I arrived. "Your lake house has plenty of space," Mom adds, as if that alone resolves everything. "They won't be there forever." 6 years. I've spent 6 full years restoring that lakeside property. $420,000 to buy it, another $95,000 for critical repairs. When a flood hit 3 years ago, I managed the damage alone while they were off cruising the Caribbean. I spent weeks salvaging hardwood floors and replacing drywall. That house is more than just property. It's where I rebuilt myself after the divorce, where I learned to sleep without fear, where breathing no longer felt like work. "Family helps family," Sabrina says in a tone too polished to be spontaneous. "We'd do the same for you." "It'll just be for 7 months," Dad adds quickly. "Until the foundation work's done." Evan keeps his eyes on his plate, the silence around him revealing far more than his words ever could. I set my napkin beside my plate, a quiet motion that stills the conversation. Something settles within me, a sudden, steady clarity that feels long overdue. "Elena, you're always so particular about your things," Mom says, waving her hand as if dismissing my unspoken objection. "This is what families do," Dad adds, his tone dipping into that condescending calm he uses when he thinks someone's being unreasonable. "We help one another." Across the table, Sabrina's lips curve into that familiar smug smile, the one she's worn all her life after every small victory. She's always taken. I've always given. And our parents have always allowed it. Not this time. I reach for my handbag, retrieve a crisp manila folder, and set it squarely on the table. "The contractors start Monday," I say evenly, opening it to reveal renovation contracts and city permits, each one signed and dated 3 months ago. It's a full 9-month renovation. Everything down to the studs. The room falls silent. Dad's carving knife hovers motionless above the roast. Mom's glass of water remains frozen midair. Sabrina's smile falters. I take a deliberate sip from my own glass, noticing how calm my hand feels. The crystal catches the light, scattering a field of tiny rainbows across the tablecloth, sharp, beautiful prisms that no one else seems to see. The folder sits between us like a loaded weapon. Finally, Sabrina's voice breaks the silence. "You can't be serious," she says, her pitch rising. "We've already given notice on our apartment. Where are we supposed to go?" I sip my water again, letting the question hang in the air as memories flood my mind. The time she borrowed my car for a weekend that turned into 2 months. The cracked windshield she swore was already there. The $3,000 loan that somehow multiplied into 18 and was never paid back. The day I found her in my shower with a key she'd had made behind my back. "You'll have to find somewhere else," I tell her calmly. "The contractors start Monday." Elena. Dad sets down his carving knife, his corporate voice slipping into place, the measured tone he uses to negotiate with clients. "Be reasonable. Your sister has 3 children. And foundation problems," Mom adds, nodding for emphasis. "You can't expect them to live in an unsafe house." "I don't," I reply evenly. "I expect them to find a solution that doesn't involve taking mine." Sabrina narrows her eyes and glances toward Dad. I know that look. The same silent understanding they shared when I was 16 and found out they'd drained my college fund to pay for her wedding. The pattern is so predictable it's almost rehearsed. "But we've already started packing," she says, her voice shifting from forceful to pleading, right on cue. "The moving truck is coming Monday morning." "This will break your father's heart," Mom whispers, reaching for his hand in a gesture so rehearsed it borders on performance. My phone buzzes quietly on my lap. A message flashes across the screen. It's from Adrian, my contractor. "All materials delivered. Ready for Monday morning at 7 o'clock sharp." Another notification follows immediately after. "Smart lock system active." A warmth spreads through me, not the heat of anger or panic, but something steadier, confidence. While they had been plotting their ambush, I had been preparing. The security team finished installing everything last week. The renovation permits were already filed, reviewed, and fully approved. Every step has been handled properly and by the book. "What about storage for our furniture?" Evan asks suddenly, his voice careful, still focused on his plate. "We could at least keep it in the garage for a while." "The garage is being converted into a home gym," I answer evenly. "Everything's being stripped down to the studs." "You'll regret putting a renovation ahead of your family," Sabrina hisses, tears rising right on cue. "I've witnessed this routine before at holidays, birthdays, any occasion that didn't go her way." The tears appear, shine, and vanish just as quickly. Dad leans forward, his tone lowering into something heavy. "Elena, you realize this could affect certain future decisions." There it is, the inheritance threat, perfectly on schedule. "What about the children?" Mom exclaims, her voice climbing with practiced distress. "They'll be homeless." I take a moment to fold the napkin on my lap with care, pressing each crease precisely. The old weight of their expectations and obligations, decades of emotional manipulation wrapped in the word family, presses down. But this time, it doesn't suffocate me. "Poor planning on your part doesn't make it an emergency on mine," I say calmly. Dad's eyes flicker in surprise. Recognition crosses his face. Those are his own words, a line he's repeated for decades in business meetings when clients failed to plan ahead. I stand, collecting my purse and the manila folder from the table. "I've honored my contractual commitments," I tell them evenly. "You should honor my boundaries." "Sit down, Elena," Dad snaps, his voice sharpening into command. "We're not finished discussing this." I reply quietly. Sabrina's eldest son looks up, confusion wrinkling his brow. "But I already told my friends about my new bedroom at the Lakehouse," he says softly. "It's not your bedroom," I tell him, my tone gentle. "And it's not your Lakehouse." I turn and walk toward the door, the echo of my heels on the hardwood following me through the silence. Behind me comes a chorus of raised voices, protests, orders, guilt-laced appeals, but I don't look back. The door closes behind me with a soft, final click that feels more resolute than any slam could. Outside, cool autumn air rushes into my lungs. I cross the walkway toward my car, ignoring the faint rustle of the dining room curtain as Mom peers out to watch me leave. My phone lights up before I've even pulled from the driveway, Dad's name flashing across the screen again and again. By the time I reach the highway, there are 12 missed calls. Only once I'm alone on the open road, 20 miles between us, do my hands start to tremble against the steering wheel. The adrenaline fades, leaving shallow breaths and shaking fingers. But beneath the physical tremor, my resolve stays solid. I pull into a rest stop, dial Adrian's number, and lift the phone to my ear. Make sure the security system is fully operational by tomorrow morning, I say when he answers. And move the dumpsters directly in front of the garage doors. I'm concerned about unauthorized access. Already planned on it, he replies, his tone laced with a small, knowing smile. After what happened during the flood repair years ago, I figured your family might try something. My grip tightens around the phone. He remembers. Someone remembers what it was like, me alone, knee-deep in water, saving that house while the rest of them vacationed in the Caribbean. The locks are changed, Adrian continues. And we've got cameras at every entry point. The trembling in my hands fades. I'm not alone this time. Thank you, I tell him quietly. I'll see you Monday morning. When I end the call, a new message lights the screen. Dad's furious. Fix this now. It's from Sabrina. I switch my phone to silent and place it face down on the passenger seat. The evening sky deepens to a shade of indigo as I guide the car back onto the road. I'm heading home, not to the Lakehouse, which is transforming into something entirely my own, but to the apartment where I finally learned to sleep through the night without checking the locks 3 times. Tomorrow, they'll escalate. I'm certain of it. But for the first time in my life, I'm ready. Underscore 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 underscore. Monday morning arrives with the rumble of an unfamiliar engine. From my kitchen window, coffee cup halfway to my lips, I watch as a moving truck crawls up the gravel drive toward my lake property. The burgundy logo on its side matches the exact shade of Sabrina's lipstick from that awful dinner. My phone vibrates again, Dad's 5th call since dawn. I silence it without glancing down and gather the folder of permits I'd shown them that night. The papers feel heavier now, no longer fragile sheets, but something solid, a kind of armor. By the time I reach the Lakehouse, Logan and his construction crew have already set up a line of bright orange safety cones. Sawhorses block the drive, forcing the moving truck to idle on the shoulder. I park behind Logan's pickup and step out into the crisp air, heavy with pine and the faint bite of chainsaw exhaust. Miss Whitford, Logan greets, clipboard in hand, 6 workers in hard hats behind him. All demolition permits are posted. Interior stripping starts in 30 minutes. Thank you, I reply, scanning the property. It looks like we have unexpected company. Logan nods, expression professional. They arrived about 10 minutes ago. Said they had your permission to move in today. The back door of the truck swings open. Sabrina appears, sunglasses perched on her head, face flushed with irritation that deepens the moment she sees me. What the hell is going on, she demands, striding toward me and gesturing at the construction equipment. These men won't let our movers through. I meet her halfway, keeping my voice calm and my distance measured. The security guard I hired stands quietly near Logan, presence solid and watchful. As I mentioned last Sunday, I say, lifting the permits, renovation begins today. The property isn't livable during construction. You can't be serious. Sabrina's voice rises, drawing a few curious looks from the workers. We've already given notice at our place. Where are we supposed to go? I reach into my bag and pull out an envelope. This might help, I say. It's a 6-month prepaid storage unit contract. She stares at it but doesn't reach for it. Storage? We need somewhere to live, not somewhere to stash furniture. Your housing isn't my responsibility, Sabrina, I reply, the words steady, easier than I expected. Those foundation problems didn't appear overnight. You've had plenty of time to plan. Her gaze hardens as she searches my face for weakness. Finding none, she spins toward the house. I still have a key. We'll work around your little project. That won't work, I answer, following her at an even pace as she marches toward the front door. Sabrina jams the key into the lock and twists, frowning when nothing happens. She tries again, harder this time. From the small speaker beside the door, a robotic voice chimes. Welcome to Sentinel Home Systems. Unauthorized entry attempt detected at main entrance. Alerting property owner and security service. My phone chimes almost instantly with the alert. Sabrina spins toward me, fury flashing across her face. You changed the locks? Last week, I reply, nodding toward the discreet security cameras tucked beneath the roofline. The system automatically reports potential trespassing to the police. Standard protocol. Something shifts in her expression. The practiced composure fractures, revealing the raw entitlement beneath. You can't do this to us. We're family. Family respects boundaries, I answer, surprised by how steady my voice sounds. My phone rings again, the security company right on time. I take the call, confirming that the alarm was triggered by my sister, not an intruder. When I end the conversation, Sabrina has already retreated to the truck, gesturing wildly through the windshield while Evan sits motionless in the passenger seat, shoulders slumped. Logan approaches, hard hat in hand. We're ready to start whenever you are, Ms. Whitford. Go ahead, I tell him, signing the clipboard. Our schedule is tight. The master suite needs to be down by Thursday. We'll make it happen, he says, then hesitates. Should we expect any interference? Your sister seems determined. Before I can respond, the truck engine roars to life. Instead of turning back toward the road, it jolts forward, bouncing over the lawn to bypass the barricades. The tires crush through the ornamental grasses I planted last spring before grinding to a halt barely 20 feet away. At Logan's firm instruction, the movers lower the ramp, ignoring the tension hanging in the air. Sabrina climbs out of the cab, triumph spreading across her face. Since you refuse to be reasonable, she shouts, we'll just keep everything here for now. The yard will do until you come to your senses. The first item, my grandmother's heavy mahogany dresser, lands with a thud on the grass. Evan trails behind the movers, silent, guilt written all over him. I don't move. Instead, I unlock my phone and scroll to a contact saved just yesterday. Harborview Auction House? Yes, this is Elena Whitford, I say, meeting Sabrina's eyes. Please proceed with pickup as planned. All proceeds go to the Foster Youth Foundation. Her expression freezes, triumph replaced by disbelief. They'll be here within the hour, I add, ending the call. What auction house? She demands. The one I called last night, I reply, nodding toward the growing pile of furniture on my lawn. I knew you'd try this. Logan clears his throat. Ms. Whitford, demolition set to start. Should we work around the furniture? No need, I answer, handing him the signed authorization forms. Anything left outside the storage sheds gets cleared today. The day unfolds exactly as planned. Construction begins. Piles of furniture grow, then disappear as movers from the auction company arrive. Sabrina alternates between tearful outrage and bitter threats, while Evan quietly convinces her to leave, promising they'll resolve the misunderstanding tomorrow. 2 days later, on Wednesday, the call comes right on schedule. I'm standing in what used to be the master bedroom, now a skeleton of bear studs, when my phone vibrates in my pocket. You heartless witch. Sabrina's voice erupts before I can say a word. The auction truck took everything. That was family heirloom furniture. I step outside, the sound of drills and hammers buzzing behind me. Then it shouldn't have been dumped on property that doesn't belong to you, I say simply. Her scream cracks through the line, but I remain calm. The serenity feels different now, not forced, not performed, but real. The boundaries I've drawn feel necessary. Right. I've documented everything, I tell her after her outburst fades. Photographs of the furniture abandoned here. Security footage of the attempted entry. The official trespassing report. It's all on record. The silence that follows is almost satisfying. I've also informed the property management company. I continue evenly. No one enters without written notice. If you'd like to see the renovation, you can schedule a supervised visit. Her tone sharpens. Mom and Dad are coming to talk sense into you. I check my watch. Perfect timing. Across the stripped-down room, the foreman catches my glance and gives a thumbs up. Let them, I murmur. They'll see exactly what's no longer theirs to control. As I hang up, the crew brings down the final section of wall that once enclosed Sabrina's future master suite. Sunlight floods through the open frame, spilling across raw wood and sawdust. For the first time in years, the air in this place feels breathable, light, free mine. Moments later, the security system chimes again, signaling approaching vehicles. I step out onto the porch, blueprints in hand, as my parents' car pulls up beside the equipment. The demolition finishes with theatrical precision, dust swirling around beams that now frame me in the sunlight. I straighten my hard hat, adjust the safety goggles, and feel a faint smile tug at my lips. MS. Whitford, where should we stack the drywall? Caleb, the foreman, calls over the hum of engines. Along the east wall, I reply, pointing toward the spot where my grandmother's sideboard once stood. Cover it if the weather turns. Mom and Dad step out of their car cautiously, eyes sweeping over the yard transformed into a construction site. Dad's jaw tightens, Mom's hand flies to her mouth. What have you done? Dad's voice cuts through the whine of a circular saw. I walk toward them, measured and steady, boots crunching on gravel. Exactly what I said I would, a 9-month renovation. Everything down to the studs. They follow me inside, footsteps halting at what used to be the living room. The space is bare, beams exposed, fireplace gutted, subfloor raw beneath the flood of daylight. This is madness, Mom whispers, eyes wide. You've ruined it. I'm rebuilding it, I correct her softly. According to my plans. My timeline. Dad scans the stripped interior, calculating like the businessman he is. Elena, this is excessive. Stop it now and we can still arrange something for Sabrina's family. I laugh, a genuine, unrestrained sound that echoes off the open framework. That won't happen. His expression darkens. You've never understood family duty. I could remove you from the will entirely. The words hang in the air, the same blade he's wielded all my life. 6 months ago, it would have cut deep. Now, it barely grazes. You already did, I answer calmly. When I refused to co-sign Evan's failed real estate deal last year. Mom gasps. Dad blanches. I set the blueprints down on a nearby workbench. Sabrina mentioned it, trying to get money for their down payment. Said you'd already rewritten the will to protect the family's assets. Her words. Mom's eyes glisten with tears, the kind that once unraveled me. Elena, please, think of the children. I reply, turning to Caleb. How's the children's reading nook? Framed and ready, just like your plans, he says, nodding toward the far corner. I glance back at my mother. Confusion flickers across her face. For the foster youth program, I explain. The same one that received the $12,000 from the furniture auction. Dad's eyes narrow. Sabrina said you sold family heirlooms. Furniture abandoned on private property isn't an heirloom, I say coolly. The auction house recorded everything publicly and transparently. Mom grips Dad's arm, scandal written in her posture. Gregory, she's made us look terrible. Everyone's talking. I pull out my phone, opening a social media feed filled with praise and supportive comments. Not everyone, I tell her, showing the posts about the donation and the community response. Public shaming doesn't work when people know the truth. Dad straightens, the edge of negotiation creeping back into his tone. Then let's discuss possibilities. Perhaps there's still room for compromise. I notice the shift from command to consultation. Progress, small but unmistakable. The renovation continues exactly as planned, I say, motioning toward a worker carefully lifting framed family photographs from a wall scheduled for demolition tomorrow. But I'm open to helping Sabrina find another home, one that fits her budget. For the first time, my mother's tone softens from entitled authority to something closer to respect. That would be appreciated, she says quietly. My phone buzzes with a series of notifications. The security company confirms that there have been no further unauthorized entry attempts since last week. The auction house sends a digital receipt for the donation, complete with tax documentation. Adrian, my contractor, forwards progress photos of the newly rebuilt back deck, the timber gleaming under afternoon light. As we stand surrounded by exposed beams and open framework, I notice my father leaning over the blueprints, his expression tempered with reluctant admiration. He recognizes good planning when he sees it. It's one language we both understand. Have you ever had to rebuild a space completely just to reclaim it? I ask them. Sometimes you have to strip everything down before you can make it genuine again. Before they can respond, my phone rings. The name Evan flashes across the screen. "Excuse me," I murmur, stepping aside to take the call. Elena, his voice is quieter than usual, carrying the weight of guilt. "I wanted to apologize for my part in all of this. I should have spoken up." Outside the window, I can see my parents walking toward their car. Their shoulders are not as rigid as when they first arrived. Sometimes the hardest foundations to build, I tell him softly, are the ones that support our boundaries. But they're the most essential. Behind me, the rhythmic noise of construction fills the air, hammers, saws, the pulse of rebuilding. One nail, one beam, one boundary at a time. Underscore 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 underscore. Evening settles over my parents' home, the same amber light spilling across their formal dining room. Shadows stretch long over the familiar Persian rug. The table looks unchanged, burgundy napkins folded just so, crystal glasses scattering prismatic light. Even the tension feels recycled, thick and expectant. 3 months into my Lakehouse renovation, I had accepted this dinner invitation fully aware of what awaited me. "Your mother made her pot roast," Dad says, slicing the meat with his usual composure. His tone carries the measured politeness of a man preparing for a negotiation. "Just the way you always liked it." "It smells wonderful," I reply, smoothing my napkin across my lap. I notice an extra set of plates on the table. Are we expecting someone else? Mom and Dad exchange a look I know by heart, that silent signal that always preceded disappointment. "We thought it would be nice to have the whole family together," Mom explains, setting a generous portion on my plate. "It's been so difficult lately, everyone scattered." The doorbell rings. Dad exhales softly, relief disguised as composure. "I'll get it," Mom says, touching his arm before leaving the room. The moment she's gone, Dad leans forward. "Elena, I've been speaking with the Callahans. You remember Edward, my golf partner? He thinks you've been rather harsh." I take a slow sip of water. I wasn't aware the Callahans had any stake in my property. Community matters, Elena. People talk. "Yes," I reply evenly, setting my glass down. "They talked when I managed the flood damage alone 3 years ago, too. None of them offered help then, if I recall." He opens his mouth to respond, but voices drift from the foyer before he can. Mom returns, followed by Pastor Greer, our family's longtime spiritual advisor, and, conveniently, someone my parents know I respect. "Elena, it's good to see you," he says warmly, taking the empty seat beside mine. "Your mother tells me you've been busy with renovations." "Transformative ones," I answer, recognizing the orchestration behind this reunion. My parents never fail to disguise intervention as conversation. Mom serves the pastor a plate before returning to her own. "We were just discussing family harmony, weren't we, Gregory?" Dad nods, carving the roast with mechanical precision. "And how certain choices might still be adjusted for everyone's benefit." "The children miss their aunt," Mom adds softly, her tone sliding into practiced emotional appeal. "Families should stay together, especially when times are hard." My grip tightens around my fork. The choreography is the same as always, the unified front, the moral framing, the insinuation that I'm the source of the fracture. "Speaking of family," Dad continues, "the Cranes helped their daughter's family last year, 8 months under the same roof during renovations. Lydia says it brought them closer. The pressure builds, slow and deliberate, guilt dressed as virtue." I set down my fork and reach for my handbag. Since we're discussing renovations, I say calmly, let me show you something. I unlock my tablet, and the first image fills the screen. My lake house surrounded by scaffolding, its frame bathed in morning light. This was day one, I explain, swiping through the chronological gallery. The next photo shows stripped interiors, workers in safety gear. And this was last week. Pastor Greer leans forward, genuinely impressed. My goodness, what a transformation. I continue showing the progression, 4 bedrooms restructured into 3, with a private office overlooking the water. The vaulted ceilings supported by reclaimed oak beams, the new hardwood floors reflecting light from the expansive windows. That's the master suite, I explain. The balcony was tricky, but worth the effort for that sunrise view. Mom pauses mid-bite. It's completely different. That was the point, I say simply, swiping again to reveal another folder. Here's the full project timeline, finalized 5 months ago. And here's the appraisal. I slide the screen toward Dad. Projected value increase, 40%. I can see the flicker in his eyes, reluctant recognition of a sound investment. This was never about denying Sabrina, I continue, voice steady. It was about following my own plans that existed long before her so-called emergency. I open another folder, this time filled with older photos. Maybe you'll remember these. The images show the storm aftermath, water halfway up the first floor, walls streaked with mold, furniture floating in the wreckage. $28,000 in emergency repairs, I note, scrolling through receipts and dated invoices. These are the messages I sent that week, the ones asking for help while everyone was on that Caribbean cruise. Mom's face strains of color. Dad stares at his plate, silent. Respecting boundaries isn't cruelty, I say into the thick quiet. It's what adulthood looks like. For a long moment, no one speaks. Then Dad exhales, his shoulders sinking slightly, the subtle posture of a man recognizing that he's been outmaneuvered. I should have helped with those repairs, Mom says at last, her voice stripped of performance. No qualifications, no excuses. For the first time, it sounds like an actual apology. The front door opens behind her, cutting through the silence. Sabrina sweeps in, cheeks flushed, eyes blazing with righteous indignation, clearly expecting to find a familiar, united front waiting for her. Sabrina's confident stride falters the moment she takes in the scene, our parents' quiet, reflective faces, Pastor Greer's contemplative expression, and my tablet lying open on the table, filled with evidence rather than emotion. What's going on? She asks, uncertainty softening her usual edge. Mom said we were going to talk about the Lakehouse. We did, I reply, standing and gathering my belongings. I've just finished sharing the renovation progress. Once it's complete in 6 months, you're all welcome to visit as guests with advance notice. From my purse, I take out a small envelope and place it on the table. The housewarming is scheduled for March 12th. I hope you'll come. The unspoken question lingers as I walk toward the door. Who will actually show up, and under what terms? Driving away, I glance in the rearview mirror as my parents' house recedes into the distance. Ahead of me, dusk spreads over the lake, and I imagine my property glowing with work lights, its transformation continuing regardless of who approves or watches. For the first time in my adult life, I feel no guilt, no lingering sense of duty, only a quiet certainty. Peace doesn't always require surrender. Sometimes it requires a stand. Sunlight sparkles across the lake, scattering diamond-like reflections onto my bedroom ceiling. 6 months have passed since that Sunday dinner ambush, and my lake house stands completed at last. Cradling a mug of coffee between my palms, I savor the stillness from my balcony. No voices demand my attention. No expectations hang over me. Just the gentle rhythm of water against the dock and birds calling from the old oak tree I refused to remove during construction. Below, the kitchen gleams, copper fixtures glowing against reclaimed wood countertops. Last weekend, I hosted friends for dinner, serving wine in glasses I chose myself, not ones passed down from anyone else. Laughter had echoed through rooms once claimed for Sabrina's children. The exercise room now occupies what would have been her master suite, a daily reminder that caring for myself isn't selfish. My phone chimes. A text from Tessa, my contractor-turned-friend. Still can't believe we pulled this off. Best project ever. I smile, remembering her astonishment the day I first shared my plans. You want to get a perfectly good house? She had asked. Now, she brings potential clients here, always with permission. The doorbell rings, interrupting my thoughts. On the security camera feed, I see my parents standing on the porch, Dad shifting awkwardly, Mom holding a small potted plant. Their first visit since the renovation ended. I press the intercom. Come in, I say, unlocking the door remotely. It's open. They enter slowly, their movements hesitant, uncertain. This visit feels worlds apart from the tense dinner where it all began. Dad's eyes travel upward, tracing the high ceilings. Mom pauses, her gaze fixed on the dining area, the table now standing exactly where she once said Sabrina's children could do their homework. Elena, this island, Dad begins, unable to finish the thought. Remarkable, Mom completes for him, setting the small jade plant on the entry table. Truly remarkable. I pour coffee into handcrafted mugs and watch as they take in the details, the materials, the light, the space. Mom lingers near the photo wall, studying images of my travels, my architectural projects, my late-night swims beneath fading sunsets. There are no family portraits. This is who I am now, I say quietly, answering the question she doesn't voice. Dad nods, eyes reflecting both pride and something heavier. You've built something extraordinary, he admits at last, unaware he's repeating Mom's words. The realization settles between us that growth sometimes requires distance. Later that evening, I host a small celebration. Tessa arrives with champagne. The security company sends a basket with a card that reads, "For our most respectful client." The owner of the auction house stops by, proudly showing photos of the community center now furnished with Sabrina's former heirlooms. The director of the foster youth program cried when we delivered them, he says. It's their first complete set of matching furniture. My phone buzzes again. A message from Sabrina. I'm sorry about the furniture. Can we talk? I read it twice before typing my reply carefully. Dinner next month. Bring dessert. No talk about moving in. A balance, boundaries with room for civility, not surrender. As the evening winds down, Dad pauses at the doorway. Respecting boundaries isn't cruelty, he says softly, quoting my own words back to me. It's adulthood. His acknowledgement feels like the last renovation completed, not of wood or stone, but of understanding. When the house grows quiet again, I step out toward the dock. The sun sinks below the horizon, turning gold to violet, rippling color across the water. My reflection shimmers on the surface, steady, unbroken, finally whole. Peace, I realize, isn't the absence of boundaries. It's the respect for them. And here, in this sanctuary I built with my own vision, I've finally found both.